Welcome to the eTour Experience Officer. Today we're going to test drive the brand new Mercedes C-Class. If you want to watch more overseas car videos, please visit the eTour app. The C-Class now always features a full digital cockpit with a screen of 10.25 inch and a touchscreen in the center console, upright with 9.5 inch as the size of the display. But you can have more, which means you can have a 12.3 inch digital cockpit and 11.9 inch for this display here. And that together is what I have. And that really is a very, very nice system. As you know already from the Mercedes S-Class or other Mercedes models, you do have different modes inside of the full digital cockpit, which means you can have the standard instrument cluster I do use at the moment. You can have something that is a bit more reduced. You can have the map and some others. And that really works well and is an absolute pleasure to look at. The center system really is the main operational unit for your car, which means you do find, of course, MBUX with voice control. You can choose between, you want to see map, you want to use your phone, you want to choose radio, you want to see the Mercedes apps, or you may want to adjust the system of your car, which is always working with this center console here. And that really is not only something which is nice to look at, it's also a control unit which is an absolute pleasure to work with. My car is featuring a color which is called Spectral Blue Metallic, something that you have to pay extra for, but something I really do like a lot because that works perfectly with the shape and design of the new C-Class. Looking at the design, that car now is 1.82 m in width, which makes it 1 centimeter wider than its predecessor. Nothing really big regarding to the change, but the design is completely new. So you do find now these big power domes in the hood of the car, which really gives the car more pressure, more power from the front. And when you then look here, we do find a completely different radiator grille. And funny with that one is you do find two different shapes. One is the one we have, which is a bit more open when you go to the downside of it. And if you have the standard car, it is more rounded. And so you really have a completely different look from the front. This one is a lot more aggressive. So I would say the standard one is meow, that one is roar. And that really makes the difference if you're looking from the front onto the car. Another big thing are these new headlamps. The C-Class now always features LED headlamps, but there is something new which is an optional feature, and that is called digital light. And with that system, you can not only drive with full beam all the time without disturbing other people, this light system also projects information on the road. Things like you're getting too close to the guy in front of you, or things and warnings regarding to blind spot assist. So that really works very well together, comfort and safety as well. On the top, the new front is a bit more aggressive with all of the C-Classes. When you look down here, you find this massive air intakes here and this very sharply shaped front wing, and that really gives the car the extra pressure to the side and makes the car really stands very solidly on the road. What really works well is the package out of suspension, steering and braking, because that really fits perfectly for the C-Class. So you have a steering which is quite precise but not too nervous. You have a stiff suspension but very comfortable, and you do have a brake system which is easy and perfectly to adjust. If you still say, that's too soft for me, no problem, because you can adjust and change from standard to sport mode. And then you will find a car which is a lot more crisp, a lot more direct, but still with all the comfort you expect from a Mercedes-Benz. There will be diesel engines available for the new C-Class with a power range between 163 up to 265 horsepower, and petrol engines with a power range between 170 up to 258. On top, to the end of the year, you're going to find the new plug-in hybrid models as well. I do not have so many figures of these cars, but I can tell you that Mercedes promises these cars will drive up to 110 kilometers purely electric. Important with the diesel and petrol engines is to know they are all 4 cylinders and they are all mild hybrids, which means we have the integrated starter generator on board and on top a 48-volt system. All the C-Classes will come with a 9-speed G-Tronic as standard, and depending on the model and the trim level, you're going to find these cars rear-wheel powered or with 4-wheel drive. The materials and the craftsmanship inside of the C-Class are really very nice. So you do find soft touch up here as well. You do find leather, fake leather, metal, wood, everything you would love and everything you may expect from a Mercedes-Benz. And everything is well made, so no noises while driving. You can just enjoy your drive inside of the Mercedes. Everything really very nice, and as said, very nicely made. The only downside is, if you go a bit lower, you do find plastic, which is here, here and here as well. And this really is something where I would love to see a bit more of soft touch or leather or a different kind of a cover. But that really is complaining on very high levels, because it is not so often that you touch these things, and they look very nice, they are well made, and so you can really absolutely enjoy the drive in the Mercedes C-Class. Looking at the side of our car, you do find these very nice rims here, which are 19-inch. But to be honest, as standard, the C-Class features 17-inch. 19-inch is the biggest wheel you can order actually. But looking at the car overall, it has grown a bit. So the new C-Class now is 4.75 meters in length, and it got a wheelbase of 2.87 meters, which means we have 6.5 centimeters more in length and about 2.5 centimeters more wheelbase. On top of this, the car now is 1.45 meters in height, and that means about 1 centimeter less than the predecessor. This together really gives the car completely new dimensions, a new sporty look. But on top of this, the design has changed completely, which means we do have now a so-called cab backwards design, which means the greenhouse of the car moves more to the rear of the car, which gives the whole shape a push to the front and makes the whole car a lot more dynamic. On top of this, because we're driving the AMG line, you do find this side sill here, which really presses the car onto the ground and underlines the sportiness of our C-Class again. I started my drive today with the C300D, and that really was a pleasure to drive. This engine delivers enough power to give you, always the support you expect and you want, but quite easy. So the drive was always very smooth and very nice. And the consumption was okay as well, because I used about between 6.5 and 7 liters per 100 kilometers driven, so absolutely fine. Now I'm in the C200 as a T model, and that is completely different. We do have a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder here on board that features 150 kilowatts or 204 horsepower and 300 newton meters of maximum torque. And that works well as long as you cruise easily. But as soon as you want to, let's say, accelerate, for instance, on the motorway from 120 upwards, or like here when you want to overtake, you really see that the revs going up, the noise goes up as well, and then the car really works to accelerate, which is not perfect. On top of this, the acceleration is not like a constant thing, it's always like a bit like a pump, but as said, only when you really use the engine. So you really have to decide if you're somebody who says, I don't care because I just want to drive easy, or if you're somebody who wants to drive from time to time a bit more dynamic, then you may choose a different one. So as said, it isn't mine, but it doesn't mean that it isn't yours. What I do have on top is the rear axle steering in my car. And I really have to say that this is an absolute plus and pleasure. Overall, the new C-Class drives really nice, really smooth and easy, and you can drive it sporty if you want as well. And with this new rear axle steering, that car really is a lot more dynamic and more easy to handle. So if you do have the money when you order the car, I think you should definitely tick that box with the extras. The C-Class as a T model offers a maximum boot capacity of 490 liters with the rear seats up. If you fold down that bench completely, that increases up to 1,510 liters, and that's, by the way, about 30 more than with a predecessor. If we talk about the sedan, we're talking about 455 liters, and that's nearly the same as with the predecessor. But there are good news regarding to the upcoming hybrid models, because they do, of course, deliver a little bit less, about 130 liters in both situations, but you will not have any steps anymore in your boot, so that means you're going to have a completely flat floor. I think that's great news. If you're interested in the new C-Class, you have to expect here in Germany a price that starts at about 41,000 euro. But that means you get a standard sedan with 170 horsepower 1.5 liter petrol engine. If you say, no, I want the estate, that starts with a C200, but that then also means it starts at about 47,000 euros. But if you say you want the big diesel engine, which is the C300D, then you have to expect prices way above 50,000. Of course, you can tow something with your new C-Class if you want to. The maximum towing capacity for that car is now 1.8 tons. Of course, the most important driver assistance safety systems are always on board of the new C-Class, which means you do always find an emergency brake system, you do find a cruise control as well as a lane assist. But of course, this is a Mercedes and you can have loads and loads of extras, which makes your car on one hand more comfortable, on the other hand more safe. But I would suggest to definitely order the so-called driver assistant package or driver assistant package plus, which provides you with a good variety of extra systems, which really lifts the assistance systems of your car to the next level. And if you then still miss something, you can easily order this especially, or just tick it in the list. The rear of the new C-Class is now, I think, a bit more dynamic than the one of the predecessor, and that starts with this massive rooftop spoiler here. And then when you go a bit more down, aside of this panel, you do find this completely new taillights, which are now always in LED technology, and for the very first time with the C-Class, they are splitted. And because they are thinner, that really provides a completely different look. And on top of this, because they are splitted, you do have a much bigger or wider tail lid, and that makes it a lot more easy to get things in and out of your boot. When you go further down, you do find this diffuser here and this chrome exhaust there, and this underlines the sportiness of the car. And to make the car look even more solid from the rear, we do have these air outtakes here, which really provides you this massive solid look from the rear of the new C-Class. The space the C-Class offers here for the front passengers is really more than enough, even for a tall person like me. I'm nearly 2 meters high and not very thin. And as you can see, I have plenty of space. I find a very nice and good position to drive the car. I have a comfortable seat which offers more than enough support. And as you can see, I still have some headroom left. And this is even because we do have this big sunroof. How about the space behind me? We're going to find out while having a short stop. So this is my short stop to see if I can sit behind me in the new C-Class. My seat is not changed, position is the same. Now let's see if I can enter that car. The C-Class should provide more legroom here at the rear bench. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So, good news, I'm in. And yeah, I do really have enough headspace, which is quite surprising. And have a look here. And in front of my knees, I do have space left, which is completely unexpected. So I would say me, 1.95 m, do sit behind me. I'm quite heavy, and that's really a positive surprise. Regarding to the compartments, you do find no surprises inside of the C-Class, which means you do have standard compartments in the doors at the front. And when you look at the center console, there is this part here which you can open and close, and beneath that you do have at the very front the wireless charging. Behind that, 2 cup holders and a small compartment in the side of it. Behind that you do find the typical Mercedes armrest which is splitted, and underneath quite a nice compartment with extra USB sockets. If you go to the rear seats, you do find, of course, standard compartments in the doors and 2 hidden cup holders in the armrest as well. And if somebody starts the question and says, Lars, you don't have anything you don't like with the car, I can tell you the answer is quite short, because it's no. That was my very first test drive with the brand new Mercedes C-Class, and I really have to say, when you look at the exterior of the car, I absolutely do like this new fresh look. Very important, the AMG line makes the big difference between meow and raw. So I would always buy this extra trim level. When you look at the interior of the car, you do find nice materials, very nice craftsmanship, and of course the newest infotainment and MBUX of the newest generation. On top of this, full digital cockpit and this upright new center display as a touchscreen, really nicely to look at and very easy to use. On top of this, you do find the most important driver assistance and safety systems as standard, but loads and loads more to explore and to tick the box to get it into your car. And you do find, of course, this nice infotainment and the perfect Mercedes drive. And it's an absolute pleasure to just cruise with the car or do it a bit more sporty. And the rear axle steering is an extra which you really have to explore and to decide if you want it or not. On the other hand, there are the typical Mercedes pricing, which is 42,000 in Germany. This is where it starts, and you can pay a lot more if you want a higher trim level or some extras. But on the other hand, that car really is a car which deserves a star.